So part 3, find the zeros of f of x equals 2x squared plus x minus 15 using a graph and algebra. So this last time we were looking for y-intercepts, now we're looking for zeros. Zeros have many names. Zeros, solutions, roots, x-intercepts. Those are all the same thing. So where does the graph touch the x-axis? So doing this one by a graph, we do a quick sketch of a graph here. Let's look at what we're going to expect by looking at the function given. We have a positive 2, okay, and it's x squared. That's important. We know this is a parabola, right? It's a quadratic, so we're expecting a parabola. It's positive, so that means it's going to go up, open up. It's parabola. It's a stretched by 2, so it's going to be kind of skinny. Stretched. And then what about this negative 15 at the end? That gives us the y-intercept. In standard form, your c value is going to give you the y-intercept. It's negative 15. All right, so if we plot that, I'm not actually counting down 15 spaces. I'm just going to say right there, we'll call that negative 15. Y-intercept. It's parabola opening up, and it's somewhat skinny for being that far down the graph. So I'm just going to kind of do a sketch like this. And like that's not very nice, but it's good enough to make my point that I would need a better graph. That's not the best for this situation. That's really not the best. I know I have a 0 to the left and I have a 0 to the right, so I'm going to have a positive one and a negative one, but I'm not, unless I spend a lot of time graphing this exactly, that's not really the best method to use. So then we're going to look at finding the zeros using algebra. So we found, like, we know one's over here, we know one's over here, but those are just estimates. They're not really exact values. So instead, let's use algebra to find the exact values. So if we're finding zeros or x-intercepts, that's when the y value is 0. So we're going to set y equal to 0, or set the function equal to 0. And then we have 2x squared plus x minus 15. And I'm going to factor this and solve it. So my factoring method is a times c to add up to b. So a times c is 2 times negative 15 is negative 30. And I want the factors that add up to equal a positive 1. So factors of 30 that add to 1, well, 5 and 6. 5 times 6 equals 30. If I need a negative, then one of these has to be negative, but I want them to add to a positive, so the larger one needs to be positive. So I'll make the 5 negative, and then negative 5 plus 6, yes, negative 5 plus 6 equals 1. It works. So that is going to give me my factors. So I'm going to write 0 equals 2 sets of parentheses. I have x squared, that's x times x, so I'm going to split up my x's. I'm going to put an x over here and an x over here, so when I multiply those back together, it's x squared. And then I have my negative 5 and positive 6. So I'm almost finished, but that's not quite right because I have this a value. A is 2. That's super important. You have to divide by the a value. So those two factor numbers I came up with, I need them to be divided by 2. Well, 5 doesn't divide by 2. So I'm going to take my 2 and I'm going to say bottoms up with a 2, move it in front of the x. So this one is, now I have 0 equals 2x minus 5 for that factor. 6 does divide by 2. 6 divided by 2 gives me a 3 over 1. So this one is x plus 3. And then I solve them. So 2x minus 5 equals 0. So x equals 5 halves. X plus 3 equals 0, so x equals negative 3. So I found the x values of my zeros. I have a positive one and a negative one. That matches the sketch of a graph, so that's good. But that's not my answer because I was asked to give zeros, and zeros are points, so I have to write them as points. It's when the y value is 0, so 5 halves, comma 0, and negative 3, comma 0. Those are points. So if you're asked to give points, don't just give x values. So then your homework for today. Homework is in the textbook, page number 19. You're going to look at numbers 9 through 23, odds only, and 55 and 57. All right, that's your homework assignment. You can use the online textbook. If you're in class, you can use a physical textbook. I have them over there on the side. And outside my door, there's a QR code to request a textbook to take home and bring back at the end of the year.